Hi, episode 34 of the Antiphonary walkthrough. We have arrived at the verso of folio 16, and there's one particular thing that attracts our attention. It's this verso, or versus, at the bottom of this page. I'll zoom in. This is the one. It's maybe too close. I'll zoom out a little bit so that we can see the verse in its entirety. So as you can see, it's a 16th century edition. It doesn't really follow the basic layout of the original 15th century manuscript. It has 4 black lines, slightly bigger notes, all the things that we have been talking about already. And this is a verse that should come in as a replacement of this versus, the Multiplicabitur, which is the verse of a responsory Nascetur nobis, to be sung during procession after the Vespers and in the ship navi of the church, so in the middle of the church. So the versus was considered not to be appropriate for a secular use. The word vacat has been placed there, meaning, well, this is an empty place, you should replace it by something else. And as you can see here in the margin, it says versus in ipso hic infra, as it is written below. And this is the verse that we can find below. So, at the end of line 4, returning to the top of the page, we have this versus, which is a bit longer than the usual rubric, having only a V with an indication of a abbreviation. I will show you in detail. This is the normal V, and when we return to the versus, we see this. And it's simply because, as you can see, there's simply more space, and this space has to be filled out a little bit. Another interesting thing is happening here a little bit below. At processionem post vesperas et in navi ecclesie, that's the one that I've been talking about. And scrolling down, we can actually see here at laudes antiphone, so the beginning of lauds, which would of course start with a big nice capital. I'll focus a little bit on that one. As you can see, it's a very nicely written out C. Well, this may be a good opportunity to talk about a little invention that I have done. It's a small device. It's nothing special, but it's an interesting thing, especially for a musician. It's the so-called notes per syllable factor. It is what it says. I count notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on, and I divide the quantity of notes by the quantity of syllables 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on. If I do this for this antiphon Canite tuba, I have a factor 1.75. You understand that if, for instance, a whole of an antiphon would be like this fragment here, the gentibus et replebitur, it's a strictly syllabic fragment, so it has one note, one syllable. This would be, of course, factor 1. So in this case, the factor is 175, meaning 1.75 notes to the syllable. It's an interesting thing because then you can also measure verse here, Multiplicabitur, which has a 2.95 factor, or another verse which has a 2.87, and that would be rather an average for a verse having 3 notes to the syllable as an average. And then, of course, responsories like this one, being the more virtuosic chants and having sometimes quite long to very long melismas. Well, this one in particular has a factor of 4.26. I will return to that rather nice little device. But for now, that's enough for this page. We have been looking at the folio 16 verso, and in the next movie we will continue with folio 17. Thanks for listening. Keep watching.